you're here for?
Botox? And if something happens with the eyebrow or something?
The only thing that can happen is your eyebrow might go down, but if you're gonna text me on WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, I'm gonna tell you what to do to put your eyebrow back. I have my salon in Poland.
Oh.
And I just travel.
Oh my God.
And I'm here every single month for a week.
But you bring the products as well from Poland?
I just send the package, you know.
Oh, you send the package. Oh, okay.
I'm looking at that from the point of view of someone who gets Botox, and I actually can't believe, nearly half choked up, kind of actually looking at it and being like, how is someone able to do that?
She's injecting people with a product that is not licensed to use in Ireland. The aftercare is basically non-existent, and I would say the consent is really lacking. As soon as something goes wrong, you have absolutely no protection. There is no aftercare.
I'm angry that could have been me sitting on that table getting B-grade Botox or whatever it is that she's injecting into people. How are we letting people do this? As a 25-year-old, it really does feel like everyone's getting it. It feels like all of my friend groups, at least one person in each friend group has Botox or something else done.
I actually think that's kind of what's fueling this kind of underground industry as well, because if your friends are all having things like Botox and things like that, some people don't want to feel like they're being left out, or, in younger people you see a lot of things like lip filler. It's sort of like a trend.
Fashion and trends are always changing. So it's kind of like if someone goes and changes themselves that much and then all of a sudden there's a massive trend change again, what happens to that person's self-identity? What happens to them internally if we're looking at it from a psychological perspective?
Obviously, not everyone's price point is going to be a medical clinic with a doctor injecting. It's obviously very expensive. It's a luxury thing. And I think that's what's fueled the cheaper alternatives really kind of blowing up, and people are like, I just want the result, and they are kind of happy to maybe take a risk, or maybe they don't know they're taking a risk, but they see a cheaper option and they're like, well, obviously that sounds better. It's cheaper,
is they don't know they're taking a risk, and I can only say that from personal experience. Before, when I started getting it, I was literally only just looking at the price.
The reason for the cost, I suppose, if you go somewhere medical, so Botox is really expensive to buy, but you're also paying for the expertise of the person and the qualifications behind the person injecting, and I think you're paying for safety as well.
People tend to go and tweak pieces to make their bodies look better, thinking that's going to impact their self-esteem. And the thing is, yes, it might, but they're trying to kind of get to the point where it's impacting all of their self-esteem. But if we think about it, your body is only a tiny little part of your self-esteem. So it gives you that little boost at the start, but it can't do everything for you. So I think people don't realise that. I think they go and get these procedures done, and unfortunately it doesn't have the impact that they think they have.
Something that I see very frequently, the people who are most unhappy or return really frequently for more and more procedures, they tend to be pursuing perfection. It's completely impossible to pursue perfection, but because they are seeking that, they're never going to be happy with what they have done, because that's the end goal.
These treatments before were for people that were extremely wealthy, they were for the famous. Now you can go in your lunch break and get a treatment. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Or when you're working from home, you can just pop in.
If we are perceived as more beautiful or aesthetically pleasing, that actually we are seen as more intelligent, we get on better in the workforce, we get more opportunities. So people go out and they seek these procedures to make themselves more pleasing aesthetically to other people, to try to get on in the world as well.
It's all short-term confidence though, isn't it? Once you get one thing done, you're happy with it for while it's novel, but then once that's sorted, you'll move on to the next thing and you'll start looking at what else can I fix, or what else can I nip, or what else can I chip away at? And you do get a big boost of confidence, and you do kind of perceive the pretty privilege and all that sort of stuff, and you really do feel like you're getting on maybe better than other people. Now that sounds awful, but
people tell you look great.
Literally.
You get your Botox done and you feel better, and then people say, oh my God, you look great. And then all of a sudden
you start looking for the next thing then, because once you're used to it and once other people are used to it, you're like, well, how do I kind of get this little hit of dopamine again?
I would have people who come in with pictures off TikTok with themselves with a filter and say, like, can you do this to me in clinic? And the answer will be absolutely no. Like, let's restart the conversation, because that you can't do that.
I suppose social media in a way is kind of a comfort blanket because you can show exactly what you want to show. And I think the thing with filters is we've gotten to a stage where a lot of people are aware that there's filters on, you know, certain stories on Instagram or certain TikToks, but where we get into danger is where people are hiding filters and trying to appear as if something they're not, you know?
The other thing is working from home, the Teams meetings, it has more of an impact than you would kind of think. And I get people literally every single day coming in saying, when I see myself on the Teams meetings, like, it actually really upsets me. I really want to do something about it. And I think COVID actually had a massive impact on that because more people were working from home. And so more people were looking at their images in this camera all day, every day. And it distorts how you think you look.
There's a really interesting piece of research that only got published recently exactly about this, that was looking at the impact that actually COVID had, for example, on how you felt about yourself from working at home. And one of the biggest things that they found was exactly that you were talking about, that actually people having to look at themselves for so long every day. And what they started to notice was there was kind of like a correlation with them, with people starting to put their cameras off because they didn't want to actually look at themselves. And then actually the rise in people looking to go for procedures because of that as well. So as you said, like, these things really do have a massive impact because we're not used to looking at ourselves all day, every day. Like, I'm looking at the both of you now, but I've no idea what I look like sitting here, you know. And we're also looking at kind of like, I suppose, a newer generation that they don't want photos taken of them. So that's a big thing that we'd see with adolescents. Like, if I can control the photo and put a filter on everybody, then that's okay. But I can't. Like, and we see it, family photos aren't been taken on holidays, things with partners, unless there's filters on them as well. And I think we're losing a whole beautiful capsule of memories that we're just losing them with younger generations. And I think everybody can be impacted. Obviously, I think if there's more kind of psychological issues there as well, people don't like taking photos. That's kind of a long-standing thing. But I think now it's a massive increase in that as well.
It just kind of rang a bell there when you were saying people aren't getting family pictures as well. It's like going on a night out. You might take 100 pictures and one will be posted because everyone wants to look their best angle. Everyone wants, you know, the best side shown and stuff like that. So it's the exact same thing.
Why do people become obsessed, or why do they go further, or why do they go to the extremes of this? And I think there's lots of different reasons why. If we look at there, sometimes it can be deep-rooted in psychological disorders. They can be a body dysmorphic disorder there, for example, where people just, no matter what they change, they just don't like it. They'll want to go again and again. And what happens is when they look at themselves in the mirror, they don't see what we see. They can't perceive what we perceive. Let's say someone decides to get a breast enhancement, and all of a sudden people are going, don't you look absolutely fantastic? You put your photo up on Instagram, you talked about those dopamine hits, you're getting the likes, you're getting the likes, you're getting the likes, whereas before you didn't. Now I'm sexually attractive. Now I'm dateable. We haven't actually fixed the underlying trauma, and we haven't actually fixed the self-esteem. So what's going to happen next? Oh, well, what happens maybe if I got some liposuction done? What happens if I got some work done to my face? And this is where the addictive stuff comes in. But the problem with this is it's actually worsening the psychological symptoms. It's worsening the self-esteem. Once you go over what someone perceives as beautiful or aesthetically pleasing, it has the opposite effect.
Yes.
People actually start to judge you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I've gone too far. How can I take it back? And how people usually do that is by getting more treatments.
Exactly, like you said, people get this dopamine hit and then they come back to clinic. You know, they'll get their lips done and it looks nice. And then 2 months later, they might show up again and they say, well, I want the same thing again. I want that feeling. I want people to notice me. As a doctor, if I'm seeing some signs that someone is maybe a little bit dysmorphic in their thinking about, that's when I'm going to start saying, okay, maybe let's have a conversation. Maybe we don't do a treatment. Like, I can say no to treatments. And what I find is that actually, when you actually have a chat about it and kind of break it down, they're actually usually kind of happy to have it explained to them that actually they don't really need the procedure. Now, obviously, there will be some people who will say, well, I'm going to get my lips done regardless, and they'll go somewhere else. But I think that's where the licensing around it and having kind of checks and balances for who's doing the procedures is so important, because that's where you get all the distortion. Like, that's where you get the strange puffy faces, the blown up filler. It's because someone went to an injector and the injector did a procedure that was not necessary and made them look worse rather than better. And you have actually negatively impacted that person's life as a result, but they mightn't be able to see it themselves.
What I always kind of urge people to do is always ask yourself, why am I getting this done? Am I getting this done because I seen a celebrity with it? Am I getting it done because actually I'm consuming myself with social media? Am I getting it done because actually I think it'll increase my happiness? Am I getting it done because actually, you know what, I don't want to feel as anxious or I don't want to feel as low anymore? So I always kind of ask people, why are you getting this done? If it's for another reason and it's not for yourself, then I would obviously tell people, please get support, talk about that. But obviously if it's for yourself and those little bits of self-esteem boosts, as you said, and just wanting to make yourself a little bit fresher and being the best version, I think, of yourself that you can be, then I think that's perfectly okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so important to do it for yourself, and I'm only saying that from personal experience. And then when you do it, like, there's no shame in getting it either. That's why I talk about it on social media, is because I'm not ashamed about it, and you know, there should be no kind of taboo secret about it. Like, I get Botox in my face and that's why my forehead is smooth. Like, it's that simple. You know what I mean?
It's okay, yeah, exactly. And I think just from the perspective of a doctor working in the field as well, never be afraid to ask the person who's going to inject you what their qualifications are. Anyone who is medically qualified will be more than happy to tell you what their qualifications are and to reassure you that they are the person who should be injecting you, and just to do a little bit of research behind where you're going and, you know, who's doing it. Just from a safety perspective, I think it's really, really important.
If you've been affected by any of the issues raised in this content, you can visit rte.ie/support for helpline information.